Overall, pretty pleased. I mean, I think when you really look at it, we played really physical. I think we controlled the game, from start to finish. We were up 14-0 midway through the first quarter, led by double digits the entire game. But I think from a defensive standpoint, really set the tone well in the first half. Did a nice job when they did have a few drives of either holding them to a field goal or even keeping them off the board. I think they might have converted 1 third down in the whole first half. Second half, we let 2 drives get away that we don't want to. So we'd like to finish better there. I think offensively, when you look at it, ran the ball well. When you take into account that we had 266 yards rushing. Now it was like 228 when you take sacks off and stuff. But we gained 266. We had 2 backs carry it 25 times total for over 200 yards. We were really physical. It was a weird game because we only had 9 real possessions. The last one being the 10th one was we were just running the clock out. You're used to getting 12, 14 possessions a game. I don't know if the clock rules are starting to change that a little bit. Starting to maybe feel that the last couple of weeks, but we scored on 6 of our 9 possessions, and on one of them had a touchdown called back. So I thought overall it was good. The one thing obviously we'd love back is getting the ball second and goal at the 1. That's got to be a touchdown. But again, when you score on 6 of your 9 possessions, run the ball the way we did, there's still plenty to improve on. Proud of that. Special teams wise, they had the one really big mistake that gave us a short field. We were able to punch that in. We had the one mistake. I think the biggest thing is we're kind of tying games on teams. We got to take the next step and start giving ourselves good field position and winning. And then we've got to clean up our punt. We've had 2 punts partially blocked now, and that can't happen. So we'll get that fixed. I feel good about how we're going to solve that issue moving forward.
You talked a little bit after the game, but how do you approach this kind of bye week, especially with the short week after this?
Well, it isn't a true, like you said, it's 2 days shorter than a 2-week bye week. But given the fact we didn't have a bye week last year, it's great. And so I think there's a couple things. We had some guys banged up. We know we've had 3 or 4 guys out. I think we came out of the game with 3 or 4 guys pretty banged up. So far, nobody's critical long term, I don't think. But so you use it for a couple things. You want to be able to get some rest, sleep a little later in the mornings. Get out here, get your work, stay crisp, try to fix the things, whether it be punt team or fundamentally things in areas that we need to clean up. But at the same time, try to get rested because we got a 7-week grind coming up. And so we're trying to thread that needle, with practicing yesterday, today, Thursday, those 3 days, but lighter practices. Yesterday was more our younger guys. Today and tomorrow, the main guys are going that are at least available. We're holding some guys to get them healthy. Hopefully by Sunday when we come in, which is kind of like Tuesday in a normal game week, the guys are all a little fresher and they're ready to go, and we can try to get a good plan together. So I think that's the 2 biggest things is getting as fresh and healthy as we can 5 games into the season, and then also just trying to tweak and fix some things because I also feel like we should know who we are, what our identity is. So let's try to play to those strengths in all 3 phases.
You mentioned Ja'Kai Clark last week of being available to try to play. Where is he at in conditioning and just kind of what have you seen?
Yeah, he's better. He's better than he was in fall camp. He's not where he needs to be, but he's available. We didn't play him because we didn't need to. He's a great option and backup center. If we needed him, he can play the guard spots. So especially, we're hoping to get J.O. back, but when he's been out and some other guys banged up here or there, that gives you a lot of security on the inside. And so if he needs to go in a game, he can go in a game, and we feel good that he'd go do a good job for us.
How touch and go running back availability
Yeah.
has been this season. How much do you credit the depth you guys have there versus what the offensive line's been doing so far this season?
I think it's a combination of both. I think we've developed some consistency in our run game. Now, to your point, we made it through the fact since the second, third game last year without getting a guy hurt in warm-ups, and we tweak a hammy in warm-ups, so we're back to doing that deal. But I think it would be good to get LJ back. Obviously, hopefully Kamar should be fine and have some consistency with guys being available. But I think the consistency just schematically and repetition, what we're doing with the O-line, tight end, and backs is good. I think you see Elijah Chapman going there. I mean, that's a pretty big spark. He's in on the 95-yard touchdown. He's in on Belton's long one down the sidelines, blocks 3 guys. That him and Stone Eby give us some uniqueness there and a little bit of juice. So I think overall, you're just seeing we're committed to doing the same thing. I think it's a combination of the backs line and everybody, and then just probably the consistency there.
Not that you're going to do any major overhauls or anything like that mid-season, but does the bye week allow you to maybe look at doing some different things offensively?
Yeah.
Of maybe really in-depth look at what's worked, what hasn't?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, usually around that third, fourth game, now we're 5 in, you have a good idea of what your identity is on, say, offense. You know, what your guys are most comfortable doing, what we do best. And so you try to build around those strengths. If it's something you need to be able to do, you fix it. If it's something that's not necessary, you throw it away. And so, yeah, I think everybody probably does that in this time. To your point, it's not a full overhaul. And we're still top couple in the league in most categories. So you're not throwing everything out, but how do we get better? And sometimes that is refining what you're good at and maybe not doing as much of what maybe you're not good at.
What do you think characterizes a good practice for the team? What kind of things do you look for in a given day and throughout the week?
Well, I think you've got to go out and practice with a purpose, with an intensity. I mean, it's easy to just go through the motions. And what I mean by that easy, it's easy to let yourself fall into that. It's practice. I mean, ask Allen Iverson. Nobody likes practicing, right? And football is probably one of the most not fun sports to practice. Like, you practice basketball in the gym with some AC, get your shots up, go to the batting cages. Like, I'm not saying it's easy. Golf course, you're on the range, you're playing. Like, football's different. You're in pads, you're sweaty, it's hot, you run around, you're hitting people. And there's no scoreboard and no fans and no result. You know what I mean? So I think that's where it's a little different. But those guys, you know, I think a guy like Rasheed a year ago, what made Rasheed great is he practiced harder than any wideout we had in practice. And so when guys buy into that, I look at Jonathan McGill this year on defense. He practices every day with a purpose, and he treats it like what it is. I'm getting ready for the game, because we're all human, and if we practice average, it's going to carry over, you know. And so you just want guys to come out with intentionality and purpose. They're going to make mistakes. That's why it's called practice. That's why you want to make them there. But just the energy and the intentionality of, hey, we got a game in X days, and today is really important in preparing ourselves for that.
With looking at the offense, how much of it is Preston centered to really kind of, in 5 games, maybe see, hey, he does this really well in practice, but it doesn't translate, or this doesn't work in practice, but when we've kind of thrown it in there in games?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and it's a great question, observation, and it's true. It's not because it's Preston, it's because he's our quarterback. And you always are trying, in my opinion, if you're trying to build an offense, you're trying to build it around what they do best, what they're comfortable with, the guys they have good connections with. And so 100%, that's an ongoing thing. But definitely once you get 3-4 games in, that's when you kind of have it. Like, he started 5 games this year now. Okay, so we have a good idea. This is what he's really comfortable with. This is what he doesn't love. This is what maybe he needs more reps at. And then you package that with the personality and the skill set of your offensive players and try to marry that all up.
Not that it was necessarily dumbed down or limited or anything, but does that allow you to maybe open up the playbook a little bit more?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the aggression can be looked at 2 different ways, right? It can be looked at in, hey, you open up and do all this stuff, or it can just be you're aggressive with how you call it. You know, like I said, the other day was kind of unique. It was, you know, we score on opening drive. We get a short field and score. It's 14-0. We had 5 drives in the first half, scored on 3 of them, had 1 called back. Like, we were not operating well. I think we ran 28 plays, 30 plays in each half, you know, like 61 total. For us, that's a low number. So when you're like, hey, 61 plays, 34 points, okay, you know. Now, we're always wanting to be better, but the way the game flowed, we jumped up. At one point, we're up 27-3. We're running the ball well. We're playing good defense. Sure, maybe we could throw this post over the top, but do you have to? And maybe, you know, so I think sometimes it manifests itself that way. But, yes, I think most importantly, knowing what we are good at allows you to call it more aggressive, because you can now call to our strengths.
What have you seen from East Carolina this year?
Yeah.
I mean, the results haven't gone their way, but they always just seem to be really tough, especially at home.
Yeah, and I mean, their schedule's been brutal.
Yeah.
They played a really tough schedule. They played really competitive. You know, one thing you know about Mike's teams is they're going to play extremely hard. They're going to be really disciplined and physical, and they're going to play great defense. And that's what you see. I mean, statistically, they're in the upper half of the league in most defensive categories. I think, you know, they're breaking in a new quarterback and some of those things that take time. They're like us. They're getting an off week, and so they're getting a chance to evaluate what they do, where they want to take it. And a lot of times teams come out of those off weeks, specifically on offense, in a better place because of that. And then, like I said, I think it's probably one of the better environments on the road in our league. So it's great. We need a road win. We got to go in, find a way to win a tough game against an opponent that's going to be physical. They're not going to beat themselves, so you're going to have to go earn it. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys.